Tell me when. Make like this.
Welcome, 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 welcome.
Welcome to FYI. For your information, I am Jaretta Finance joining you this morning alongside Sherrod Duncan, folks. It's off to a beautiful day. It's the 7th of
It
July.
is, it
Thursday,
is,
that is. Thursday, the 7th
it
of July.
is.
You know, the week is almost over. Tomorrow is Friday, and then
Yeah,
it's the weekend. So, as you
yeah,
know, we go through this every single day. We say, get up, make sure that you have your list checked off as to what you're planning
correct,
to do
correct,
for the week, and inevitably what
correct.
you're planning to do for the month, so that you get stuff done. What gets scheduled get done. I always say that to you guys. So good morning to you.
Yeah,
I hope that you have had a peaceful night's rest. I hope that the weather is good at your and I hope that you are whomever is on their way to work. If you're listening to us in your cars or your
correct,
phone, make sure that you are not holding your device in your hands. Make sure that you have it
correct.
secure there in a holder. Just be safe wherever you are. I know Beatrice should be probably on her way to work at this hour
And
as
all the other
well.
folks, and Sam Shizal should be here, and Candy Lane, and she should be running in right now.
Yes.
Hollering, I die. Good to see Lynn Finance and Lena Williams. How are you guys doing? Good to see you folks there. Archie McCalman. Lynn, really good to see you. Carol Rollins and Tessa Isaacs, Graves Andy, and all the other folks.
I see Leon Baird and Natasha and Marlene. I see Don Cook, Irville Don Cook joining us there for the west side, as persons reported as the best side. Wendy Caesar here. Good morning to you, Wendy. How are you doing? Maureen Coppin Williams. Good morning to you, Maureen. What is going on at your end? I see Sonia. Sonia is saying Boris has resigned. Boris Johnson has resigned.
Yeah,
A
yeah,
lot going on there in the UK. We've been
yeah,
following it for some time now. He kept his head above water. Well, at some point, he was barely keeping his nose out
yeah.
of the water,
That's how it's going.
But after yesterday's episode, we understand the position he's in right about now and what has been forced of him. So, Derek Smith, we see you there. And
I don't know if
Tina
it's
in the
being
house.
forced. I don't know if it's being forced. Or it's just his own errors. I don't know.
No, I'm saying when everyone collectively move in a certain direction, he has no other choice.
But he can say he ain't going. Like, he can say
I
Let
don't
me
think
see.
that's a position you could take. But it's sad that we always say you should in politics you shouldn't get to that point that you have to be forced out to the door.
And I am telling you, I'm not going.
The Boris probably
Yeah,
singing that
yeah,
song, but I think
yeah,
we'll get to that in our discussion.
yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Is
You,
it
you, 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 you you know who
McCallum?
might be following Brutus? Might be following Boris? Brutus? Brutus talking a whole pack of nonsense. Coming to that. Good morning to the members of the Galley Police Force. Be coming to
Good
you.
morning to the members of the Guyana Police
Circling back
Force.
to y'all.
The discipline service all together. Good morning to all the public servants out there, the doctors, nurses.
Yes.
Good morning to all the folks getting up and going to
Good morning.
security job this morning because you're just trying to make ends meet for your
Correct.
family.
Yeah.
Better days are
Yeah.
gonna come. Better days are gonna come.
Good morning to all those folks who just got in. While some people are going out, some people are coming in.
Yeah.
After a hard night.
Yeah, a lot of people do that. And those persons are a lot of those persons, especially security guards, severely underpaid.
I feel like I had a hard night.
A hard night.
Yeah. I woke up to a lengthy statement by Calvin Brutus.
Oh. That's how I woke up too.
Yeah. The thing tired me out just to
I read it from guys.
Tire me out.
I read a statement this morning. There, I think it's I saw it online on the Daily News, if I'm not mistaken. But then I questioned it whether or not it was authentic because it was coming from them, and I know that there was.
They got some challenges.
I'm very serious. I mean, I have a smile on my face, but I'm very serious about this. No. Because when I read the content of the statement, I was like, no, man, Calvin Brutus, he's not going to say this.
Yeah.
Because you remember he was the one that actually challenged the promotion list in the court prior. So it doesn't make sense for this statement to be coming from him. So I'm waiting to see as the day rolls on if he's going to come out and pull up that particular site for posting something that may not be so.
Resign.
So because
I started on the Guyana Police Force website.
It's not
Facebook page. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, I didn't see it there.
Guyana Police Force Facebook. I think it is right, sorry.
Goodness. But who's handling PR there? I don't know. They have a PR team. I believe they do have a PR team because if I remember correctly, I'm taking this from Gordon Mosley. I listen to Uncle Gordon so
Yeah,
much.
big Uncle Gordon.
But big Uncle Gordon was saying that prior to the police force having this new PR team in place, when ordinary policemen was dealing with their PR responsibilities, they were basically more effective and more efficient.
Mhm.
Right, so I'm pretty sure
Wow.
that they have a
Gordon said
new
that?
PR. Yeah, Gordon. He was saying that there was more. I think he didn't say effective and efficient, but he was speaking about the responsiveness,
Mm-hmm,
the
mm-hmm,
fact that there's a
mm-hmm.
PR group and
Yeah,
reporters that are asking questions and they're not giving answers. You can
yeah.
see the person's reading your comments and all
Not
of those
responding.
things, and,
Yeah.
and the questions are not responding. He
We gotta
said
be
prior,
responsive to people.
when ordinary police officers were doing the job, they were more forthcoming with
I
the
see, I see.
information. Yeah.
We gotta be more responsive
Yeah.
to people.
So
We have to be.
there is a PR team, and I think
We
that they
have to be.
have done Calvin Britos a severe injustice
Mm.
by that
But
statement.
I see Calvin has his name to the bottom, so I don't know if it's a PR team. Maybe they're unaware. The
But I
statement is
am
out
given
there,
I'm given the benefit
right?
of,
But
of,
I,
of the doubt.
but I can't see his name at the bottom. I say it's a PR team. When you say name at the bottom, you own everything there.
I know, but I'm still waiting for
You
him to
know.
come and say it's not him, because it doesn't make sense that you challenge the promotion list in the
Mhm.
court and you come back and say
Stranger
persons
things has happened.
shouldn't be
Stranger
challenging
things
the
have
promotion
happened.
list in the
Like
court.
yesterday, we
But I
learned
don't get
that
that. That doesn't make sense to
Higgins
you
was
guys.
appointed as out of necessity, and then they come back and they want to appoint you again in the same post. So stranger things have happened. Strange things have happened. The people in government, so
Listen, when it
anything
comes
can
to,
happen.
and I always give the caution, leave the politics to the
Mhm.
politicians. You don't get involved,
Yeah,
especially when you are holding
it's very true.
posts
Very true.
within
Very true.
those organizations, the police force.
Yeah.
When anything concerning discipline services and all of that, you do not get involved ever
Don't rush up.
in with political. You don't use
I should
political
get you
language
can get brush up.
because you are there to serve and protect all of Guyana. And once you start using political language
Yeah.
in statements that you make and so forth, then you will not have the confidence of the people that you are unbiased in your approach and the
Correct.
way in which you handle the law and order
But there's that.
within the country. It's a very serious thing, and persons need to understand. I have to consistently give a caution to persons there. Don't go down that line. Stay your lane. Everyone wants elevation in their jobs and all of those things. Stay in your let the
Yeah.
politicians do their job.
Yeah. Yeah.
You would see, I said something on my Facebook. Kaiser News carried an article. Priya came out cussing out. Leave the politicians to do their job.
Let's do what we
I'll
gotta
deal
do.
with Priya just now, by the way. I'm not done with her yet. So.
Interesting. Interesting. So we have anything in the morning papers you want to look at, or do we head right into what's happening internationally? I'm fired up, ready to go for anything. Good people, we ready to go. Ready to go. Fired up and ready to go. Where we attacking from this morning? International news?
Well, I'm still in the comment section
Mm-hmm.
with Wesley Wade and Christopher Jarvis and Paulette. Devonish, dear guys, you have to do your part very, very early this morning and share
Yeah.
the stream.
Yeah.
So much to discuss as we go along. The PVP and their cash grants and the way in which they go about there. The fact that they're in the process of distributing the
Correct.
monies, the $25,000 that they said is going to be given to hinterland communities and riverine communities, but then they're going into hinterland communities and segregating and dividing the people there as they perceive to be of supporters for them
Yeah.
as against supporters
Yeah.
for the APNU AFC, and not given to areas that they believe is APNU AFC
Correct.
strongholds.
Chanel,
Right?
Chanel Smith
Lots to
Daniel
discuss.
says, Chanel says the virus is gone and the people going soon. I believe you.
Yes.
I believe you. So where do we start this morning? Where do we start, good people from? I already had it in the international news. That's what we have. I ready?
Let's go to the international
Ready,
news. Let's go
folks?
to Boris, Sharon.
Yep,
Let's go
yep.
to Boris.
That's where we're
Sharon
starting
is
from.
excited to
Boris.
to Boris.
Today quit as Tory leader, as party leader, and he's set to quit as prime minister in autumn, somewhere around October.
Yeah.
In autumn, folks, he'll be gone. You do too much of nonsense, and when you do nonsense, you must go. That's why I agree with Chanel Smith Daniels that them boys going just now too.
Because they've been doing
They've
nonsense.
been doing nonsense.
But the people, as a people, we need to hold leaders accountable, and that's what's going on there in the US.
Yep.
Well, in the UK.
Yep.
There was a poll that was taken, and the UK, more developed countries they're very keen on doing polls, and so I think Guyana needs to go in that direction. very, very keen on doing polls. And one of the polls that went very recently, a couple of days ago, says that two-thirds of the people believe that he should resign.
Yeah.
Two-thirds of the
He
folks
overdo it.
believe that he should resign.
He overdo it.
You know, so Boris was in a bit of pocketory there
He
himself.
overdo it. He overdo it. One thing to the next. People get tired. Like how we tired. That's how I feel this morning. Tired of them.
You're tired of that.
Tired of them. Right? And that's what we're seeing here. We learned yesterday. This is how it really started. That 2 cabinet ministers had resigned. Sajid Javid and Rishi Sunak had resigned from the government. Believe it or not, by this morning, there are over 60 persons who have resigned from the Boris Johnson government. Over 60 have
Wow,
resigned.
that's a lot of resignation. That's
Right?
basically
Yep.
saying that we've had enough. We're done
Ministers, members of parliament, you name it. Over 60 have resigned. Right? So that's how it's going down on that side, folks. And of course, we're covering it with the latest on this side.
But how do you get to that point? And we can recall a lot of what is going on there, what's going on in the UK prior, and then one of the more recent one was the whole issue with members of his cabinet actually in the parliament looking at pornography and those
partying
things.
during COVID
Right.
when they had the
So-
regulations in place.
Yeah, you
Whole
put a
host of
regulation,
steps.
but then you have to.
You realize by that measure this government gone months ago?
Good. That's my point that I'm getting to. When you look at the things that they have been fighting and what pushed them out of government, if we are to measure the governance here in Guyana by that same yardstick, the PPP would have been out of office
Very much so.
a very long time ago.
Very much so.
Right?
Very much so.
They're talking about persons looking at porn in the National Assembly. We have at the level of the National Assembly a minister standing at the podium and telling a member of parliament that she needs a dildo.
Yeah.
Still there, absolutely nothing done to him. Sherrod Duncan was suspended on that matter because he stood up in defense of that minister.
Yeah.
We have had, when it comes to COVID regulations and guidelines, we have had the ministers doing everything and anything. Parties being held, permission be given for parties in the midst of all the regulations being at its height and all of those nonsense. And then we have the people still set. And if you're to even measure a few of those things, and it goes to show how far we need to get as a country when it comes to championing democracy altogether. People like to go out and utilize the word democracy.
They do.
But when you test it, when it's put to the
It's
test,
something else.
You see what is going on here. And it's not a democratic state. When you put rules in place as an administration, you break those rules yourself, and then you go about business as it's a normal day.
That's what's happening, guys. And we said this just yesterday. In some countries, when you do nonsense, people fall on the sword.
Yes.
Right? In this country,
and that's what's going on with
you have to be given more swords. And we can talk about some of them. Boris and Brutus. Is that what happened with them? So that's some of the things we're looking at. Another issue we're following internationally, you might be familiar with this. The rapper Nipsey. Nipsey Hussle, his killer, Eric. Nipsey, sorry. His killer, Eric Holder, has been convicted of murder. I think he was given 6 years.
Yeah. Well, when we guys who know
Nipsey Hussle.
I think that this took a little too long. It took so long for
that shocked me too.
Yeah,
that shocked me too. Sometimes justice takes a long time.
Yeah, that it took very long for to get to this stage. Nipsey Hussle, a lot of persons that know him would have spoken about how much of a kind-hearted person he was, and all of those things. I know very prominent persons in
all
in
those
the
things we're
industry
contending with.
Spoke about him, the way in which I know he was well known for the way in which he treated his wife. That was something that everybody used to admire. The way in which he was a good husband, and those are the important things. You were living
this life.
The way in which he treated his wife was a big thing. I know it's like Steve Harvey and a lot of folks that came out and said, he would have been great, like he was headed for greatness. And someone took his life. Such is life.
Again, thoughts and prayers with his family. Those wounds sometimes are still open. You have all these things still going on. Thoughts and prayers with them. Justice has been done for all intents and purposes. We come locally, well, in the region rather, and Jamaica telling us they have the first case of the monkeypox.
Well, this is crazy.
Franklin telling us nothing here though. Franklin telling me nothing.
Well, we spoke about monkeypox from day one.
Yeah,
I think before even the local news, before I
yeah,
saw anything coming out in the media about monkeypox from the
yeah.
Ministry of Health, any warning or anything like that. We spoke about it and we did give the symptoms. And now that you're seeing monkeypox right there, no, Mr. Wholeness, I saw that on his Facebook page
Yep,
yesterday
yep.
when he was speaking about that. And I want to remind you guys, once something is in the Caribbean, it's as good as calculating it as being home, because of the world is so integrated. We spoke about it so many times. The integration of the world, the flights
Correct,
between our countries and so forth,
correct.
it's so rapid. It's done every day. So persons are traveling in and out of countries, mixing and meddling every single day. So when something of this nature is being spotted in Jamaica, then we need to take it very, very serious here in Guyana. And I want to go through some of the symptoms again as a caution, because I've been through this a lot of times, but I want to just add it again. And it says the symptoms of monkeypox can include fever, headache, muscle ache and backache, swollen lymph nodes, chills, exhaustion. It said a rash that can look like pimples or blisters that appear on the face, inside of the
Uh,
mouth, and on other parts of the body like the hands, feet, chest, genitals, and anus. Right, so it's crazy. It says the rash goes through different stages before healing completely. The illness typically lasts 2 to 4 weeks,
yeah.
right? And I want to tell you, like, this specific part of it, this was not even on the symptoms prior when we were looking at it, but as this is being spread throughout the world,
Yep,
even the websites
yep.
are the CDC website is updating their information and adding more
Excuse
to
me.
it. I have a mint for you, don't worry.
Thanks so much.
So guys, be on the lookout if you're seeing any such symptoms, if you're seeing any such pimples or blisters that's appearing on your face, inside of your mouth, or any parts of your body like your hands, feet, chest, your genitals, the anus. These are very, very, very serious
We gotta be watchful.
things. We have to be looking at it. Yep.
We gotta be watchful. But you know what is start? What is very startling? That locally they haven't begun to tell us what this is yet.
Yeah, we've been like, and that's
That's
why
very startling.
I just said, we've been talking about it from day one. The very first reporting that came out, and I have to say we do our homework
Yeah,
at every point in time. We give you the facts and the details, and I hope that the Ministry of Health is doing a whole lot more work right about now as it pertains to educating people how to safeguard yourself
correct,
against this, and especially when it comes to training health professionals
correct.
also to make sure that they are equipped with the relevant knowledge to deal with any case going in at the level of the hospital, because persons don't want to be exposed further to another illness.
Correct.
We've
Look,
not
let's be
yet
following.
caught.
Look, let's be following.
Well, the court has ruled that sections of the Antigua's Sexual Offences Act is unconstitutional. Could you believe that? Parts of a Sexual Offences Act now being deemed
And this is
unconstitutional.
specifically as it relates to buggery.
Wow.
Yep, yep, yep. So they're striking that down. They're striking that down as unconstitutional, as Rita says.
Mm.
Yep. So interesting times in the region, because this now is going to filter to other places. This has been challenged here several times, but again, people's views as a society on issues like this continues to evolve.
Well, what I believe was for this specifically, I know that, and I want to look at what's going on in the U.S. very recently when it comes to the Roe versus Wade and the court's decision that they're going to actually have they're actually going to put a system in place. Well, the new law is that each state have the power to decide for themselves whether or not they're going down that pathway. And as a society, as a country, everyone will have varying views within a society. But in a democratic society, it goes through a specific course when it comes to law and order, justice system altogether. So let us see how this goes.
Yeah,
Once it is
yeah,
once it
yeah.
reaches to the level of one country. Well, here you see right there in the Caribbean, you are expecting it to come closer to home. I want to
Correct.
remind persons also at this point that at the level of the National Assembly, because of the ruling, because of our ruling of the CCJ, at the level of the National Assembly, it was only last year that the cross-dressing bill went to the level of the Parliament, I think as a consequential bill to that
Yeah,
ruling at
yeah,
the level of the
yeah,
CCJ,
yeah.
to actually to
Ratified here.
yes, to actually have it at the level of the Guyana Parliament to remove the
The
law that
offense, the offense. Yeah,
prohibited persons from cross
correct,
dressing,
correct.
right? So with that, you see these things here,
I
and
think it's gonna be on that now.
good.
Yeah,
So
so
it's a broad
a lot on that
discussion,
front.
but a discussion. These are discussions that needs to be had in the community. A lot more focus groups, and I want to see more panels having the discussion very balanced, and
Correct,
let's move forward on
correct,
those
correct,
things.
correct, correct. Arvin Don, I see your comments. Thanks so much. Thanks so much. Look, stuff we're following locally, folks. Stuff we are tracking locally. All right. Well, the government wants more money. The regime wants more money. Ruti, you know the back of your hand.
Mhm.
It's how much billions we get in the last budget. Biggest budget ever, 500 and how much ever billions. Biggest budget ever. They want more money now.
Well, I think what is the I think what is the most interesting about that.
Mhm.
Let me go
Tell
specifically
us,
to
tell
what
us.
you're looking at here
Tell us what.
before I move from that
Tell us.
point,
Hmm.
guys. But what is more interesting there, and I must say to you is that and remind you first of all that at the level of FYI, we spoke about the fact that uh, the budget was passed in February, and I said in no uncertain terms back then that the budget would actually that the PPP administration is going to come back by mid-year. That's what I said. I said they're going to come back by mid-year, and they're going to ask for a supplemental. They're going to say that they need more money. They're going to say that the money was not enough and all of those things. But I want persons to be very conscious, very cognizant of some basic facts. Sometimes you have to really break it down and let people understand the amount of money that is being spent in the country right now. I want people to know the 5-year period, and I want you to get this because I don't think I ever put it over in this way before. But the 5 years under the APNU administration, those budgets that was passed then, those five budgets that was passed under the APNU AFC government, when you sum it up, it is equivalent to the budget that was passed since the PPP took office in August of 2020. The amount of money, and persons, you have to be very keen on these facts, the amount of money that the coalition spent in their entire time in office, the PPP has already dived into all of that since they took office. It is less than 2 years now, and they're still going to come to the National Assembly for a supplemental budget. People, I need you to be very, like I'm saying, be very, very keen on these data. You have to know the facts because they're making excuses. You're hearing them going to various communities. They're asking where they're going to get the money from for this and that and all of that. You cannot be questioning those things. And I think I have a quick recording of that. I think 2015 budget, 221 billion, 2016, 230 billion, 2017, 250 billion, 2018, 267, 2019, 300. The PPP went to the National Assembly. This budget that was passed in February was a total of $552.9 billion. When you submit all of the money that they've spent from 2020 to now, it is going to be the equivalent of the money that was spent by the coalition administration during their 5 years, the entirety of the money that was budgeted during those years. That is the fact that you need to look at right now. These are the people that are telling you that they don't have enough money to come into your communities. These are the people that are giving out cash grants here, there, and everywhere only to people that they perceive to be supporters of them. These are the persons that are saying that $25,000 COVID cash grant for everyone, but persons are still left with a pink slip in their hands right now. These are the people
And you
that
know
we are
what?
talking
A
about.
good question to ask, Rita, is if they're pumping all this money into the economy, how come people are still hurting? You know, how come people pockets still empty? If you've already spent everything Apnu has spent in 5 years in just under two, how come people are hurting so bad by all of this? And that is the challenge that we have. That is the precise challenge that we have. People are hurting economically in this country,
Yeah.
and it's not just the lower class. It's the business class too. They are hurting terribly in
Yeah.
this economy. A lot of money you see being put out here, but
Because we always say, and it's a good time for me to remind persons based on what you're saying there, that whenever the PP pushes initiative, it's never in support of small and medium scale businesses. They're least concerned about the longevity and the sustainability of those industries, because they make very well sure that they look after a certain cabal at the helm, the persons at the very
yeah,
top. So those business people, this there is suffering just the same. So many persons had to close, shut shop, basically, and all of that. And
correct,
even at
correct.
the level of the ministry, contracts are being given, petty contracts that should be given to small and medium scale businesses. It's being hogged up by folks that have very large establishments that
Yeah,
should not be
they
competing
want
on that
everything. They want
level.
everything.
It's
They're
crazy.
not just coming after some. They're coming after everything.
Hmm.
And folks, as you engage your program, some of you slack up this morning with the shares and hitting that emoji button. Let's do better this morning. We got hundreds of folks watching us from around the world. Share the live, folks. Smash that emoji button. Partner with us as we continue to examine these issues. Again, very poor management out of
Very.
the PPP with this economy. The other thing we follow, another issue is this very close relationship with Barbados. And it's good for all intents and purposes
Hmm.
on the face of it. But when you examine it, it seems a little one-sided to me. When you examine some of the things that are coming out of it, you're looking for, kind of, we get something out of this relationship, Barbados gets something out of it, and we go along the road like that. But that doesn't seem to be the case at all, at all, at all. And I will tell you why. I will tell you why it doesn't seem to be the case. We see a lot of hugging up and smooshing up and so on with Mia Motley and Irfan Ali, but it doesn't seem to be producing anything on our part, or for our part. It seems to be very weighted
Yeah.
to what's happening in Barbados. And for instance, we see here, and this is according to Chronicle, this is some of the information we pulled from them, because we said if anybody would know, they would know, being a government entity that reports on these matters. It says the Ghana Barbados St. Barnabas Accord more tangentially provides a 7-acre food terminal in Barbados. They're benefiting from that. A space to accommodate approximately 40 containers, a reservoir holding 20 gallons of water, land for crop production. All this we given.
Mhm.
All right. I don't know how we benefiting. Yeah. There's everything Barbados getting.
Well, the problem is
We get the
that
hubs and the switches, maybe.
Well, the problem is there that we have some people that is going broker in deals that is not going to benefit the ordinary citizens of the country and the country
Mhm.
altogether. They're brokering deals with things that they cannot come out publicly and speak about.
Correct,
The
correct,
benefits are not things that
correct,
they can publicly speak about. That
correct,
is the
correct.
issue that you're looking at there. So you can't see them coming out in a big press conference and saying these are the benefits, because the benefits are things that are unspoken of, cannot be spoken of.
Correct. So you see all this stuff happening later, but this again,
But Boris is resigning because he
yeah,
kept the party and his ministers look at porn in the cabinet.
correct.
Mm,
Among other things.
mm,
So here are these guys who've done so abysmally in terms of the management of the economy. You're seeing projects, but really and truly, no one knows how this is impacting you. Did you feel any difference in the kind of disposable income and those issues,
you feel a difference
right?
to the point that you feel a difference, and if you're looking at it from the perspective of what you can purchase now, as opposed what you could have purchased before, well, with the ridiculous inflation rate, the fact that the
Correct.
inflation rate continues to rise, the
And I'm
money in
happy.
pockets
I'm
less.
happy you mentioned that because we're
Hmm.
coming there. Because again, we've been covering some of this at our end from the mid-year economic report coming out of the Bank of Guyana, in which the report itself, even being reported this morning by Kaito News, the cost of living is going to double by year end. Can you imagine that? The cost of living is going to double by year end. It means if your life hard now, Folks, brace yourself.
Oh,
Brace yourself.
the main issue that we look at when it comes to inflation is inflation in basic cost of the cost of basic food items. Rather,
Mhm.
that is the most dangerous inflation rate. And why that is so is because it affects the most vulnerable in society. You know, persons that is working for a minimum wage, persons that are basically on the breadline
Yeah,
already. So when
correct.
food items go up, those persons are left to literally starve.
Correct.
And that is something we've been looking at. And as you have been tracking, that is the inflation rate that has been skyrocketing in our country. Now we have to do a whole lot more when it comes to securing and safeguarding those persons. The most vulnerable in society is yet to see any constructive policy position that is going to make life better for them, that is going to give security of life to
Yeah,
them when it comes to feeding children in homes and so forth.
etc.
It's a very serious situation, and we still look forward. I mean, everything you need to be very cruel as as an individual to sit in a position in government and you know what is going on the ground and
Yeah,
yet put forward absolutely no policy
Co-
measure to make sure
correct.
that those persons are protected.
Correct. So, Shruti, you're talking about inflation earlier, and this is the information that we have at our end, our analysts have put together. You know, inflation simply means, well, one of the things it means is that if the inflation rate is high, you got money in your pocket, but it could buy less.
Yeah.
It's buying less now. Inflation seems to have done better under the previous administration.
It was stable.
It was stable under the previous
And that's what you
administration.
aim for as a
Yeah.
government. You have to aim for stability when it comes to the
Right?
inflation rate.
The best was in 2020 when inflation was at 0.9.
Hmm, hmm.
0.9. It means you had more money in your pocket, more spending power.
But I think what is the beauty about this particular graph is when you put it against the constant increase in wages and salary, you understand the amount of
Yeah,
spending power
correct.
that person had, the increase in spending power that persons had every single year. Because when you're keeping the inflation rate constant and then you're going and you're adding you are increasing wages and salaries every single year, you give persons the ability to elevate their standard of living on a
Hmm.
yearly
Yeah,
basis. And that's the fact, that
yeah.
is the fact. I mean, I see, so many times we see persons coming in the comment section, they try desperately to defend the PPP administration and so, but when these facts are presented, what do you say? Like,
Yeah.
how do you deal with that?
You know
How
what?
do you deal with the fact that you are trying to say that these people know what they're doing, but yet the data says that the inflation rate was constant
Correct.
and kept constant there during the time of the coalition. How do you debate those stats? How do you still come and try
You
to
just got to
defend
deal with
it?
it, right?
Right?
And if you don't believe that, the International Republican Institute put out a poll recently that
Mm,
it conducted, right? And the economics that was covered in this is quite interesting.
mm.
For instance, right off the bat, 22% of the respondents say they have trouble feeding themselves and family, right? 17% say unemployment is the number one issue, right? So you all see where we are. 35% says they have enough to survive, but can't afford anything else.
Mhm, mhm.
Right? You won't die from hunger, but you're not moving past that. And over and over and over, we saw that over and over. The population in dark about the oil sector, 98%.
Yeah, one of the things that when it comes to the trouble feeding themselves and their family, that particular one, and I like to go back to these because we are living in a country, and I consistently say, with the majority of the folks living here are poor people.
Yes.
With the majority of the people in
Yes.
Guyana are not wealthy people. The
Yes.
majority of the people in our country, they're poor people, right? They don't have lavish, extravagant lifestyles they live. They go day to day trying to make ends meet for their
Correct.
family. And this is not specific to any specific race or region. This is throughout the country.
Yeah.
Throughout the
Yeah.
country, the
Yeah.
majority of folks, that's how they're living. And what that poll actually said, and if I remember their wordings very correctly, when they were talking about the difficulties people have in feeding themselves and their families, what they were specifically referring to was the unhealthy habits that persons are picking up in order to cope with the rising cost of living, and some of those unhealthy habits that persons were resorting to was to skip meals, that you cannot eat every
Yeah.
meal, you have to skip
Can you imagine
meals.
that?
And that is the report that came out, that person skipping meals. And I noted that it was Gail Teixeira that came out swinging at the report, because they don't want that report going
They
out
lacked integrity.
about their government. They don't want
Correct.
that to go out, knowing that from 2020 to now, their budgetary allocation was in total is the same that the coalition had for 5 years, and persons are starving, people are forced to skip meals and all of those things. They don't want those things going out.
Very well, very well. And a lot of work has to be done
Hmm.
here. You know, a lot of work. But this is the economics of it. This is the IRI poll wasn't conducted by us. It wasn't what do you call it? It wasn't the advent. It wasn't, by our
It
side.
wasn't initiated
It
by
wasn't
us,
initiated.
the parameters was not set by us, the sampling was not done by us. Whatever you want to do to discredit it and all of that, nothing had to do with
Correct.
the APNU,
Correct.
AFC. And when these international bodies come in and they do their studies and so forth, you give them kudos for the work that they have done. If it goes against your government, as it went against their government severely, they need to put some serious efforts and policies in place to deal with that, to deal with the facts that is being presented there in the report.
Yep, 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 yep. And on that front, we move forward, keep you guys posted on what's happening. But lots of people in this economy that we have are hurting really, really, really badly. And this is what we're following. For the biggest issue, the GPF's mountain failures. Oh, too much. It's too much.
Wow.
The GPF's mountain failure. Right? A lot to discuss here. A lot to discuss. A lot to discuss. And Julia, maybe you want to start with that statement out of Mr. Brutus this morning, and we'll come back and help you through it. Yep, yep. Come back and raise some issues there.
Well, I did note a statement coming out of Mr. Brutus there. As soon as I woke up this morning, I saw a statement coming out of none other than Calvin Brutus this morning. And one of the things that I want to highlight, I must say, is that I found it very surprising. I found it very surprising altogether that that was so. And I'm pulling it up, guys. So just bear with me for 1 minute as I pull it up there. Bear with me for 1 minute. Yes, there it is. A very lengthy statement. And guys, I want to know in the comment section, let me know how many of you had the opportunity to go through this statement, and let us have this discussion. It's a very, very serious matter, and we cannot just put it aside. I started off this morning by saying members of the police force, the GDF, those bodies, they need to make sure that they separate themselves from making any statement that could be deemed highly political, highly biased, and all of those things, because naturally their job requires differently when it comes to balance of the service that they're providing altogether. Let me know if you read it. Very, very interesting words being used there, very concerning words being used there within that statement. At some point in time, I didn't note that it was on the Guyana Police Force page, but I think Cheryl just confirmed that that's where it was, and that statement was taken from there. But you cannot go out, I think, and make statements like that and expect everyone to just digest it normally. It just does not work like that. And one of the things that are most concerning is the fact that it was none other than Mr. Brutus himself that had taken the matter to court, challenging the promotion list prior. So how can someone that went to the court to challenge the promotion list prior now condemns action of challenging the promotion list and the legality of the process himself? So it's a bit confusing to me that the very same person, there's two different standards, it's got double standard being showcased there. I'm trying to get the comments there. Marlon said, I heard it about midnight. Persons are there. What do you think about it, Marlon? And I see Cleon Christopher is there, Well, Cleon have his opinion, and Edward Brooms, my goodness, Colleen Skeet, Suzette, What is going on, guys? What is going on with this particular statement coming out there from Mr. Brutus? I see Linton stored. Guys, make sure that you share the stream. We're going to get very much so into the discussion. A whole lot for us to discuss on that matter. I don't want to be reading the statement out, it's very lengthy. Marlon, well, Marlon is saying, Brutus got his promotion, so he writing what he's writing now. Well, a lot has to be said about it, but again, I think the point that we have to get over is the fact that you do not sit in that position and say those things. I think it's very concerning. Okay, so specific parts of the statement, and I'm going to go right down to the bottom. It says the administration of the force urges all concerned to not be distracted by these mischievous tactics. You don't push words like that, but rather to focus their attention and energy positively by continuing to perform law enforcement duties with diligence and poise. Further, be mindful of those individuals that are self centered, conniving. I know these words, and obviously enthusiastic to inflict unwarranted and unprecedented trauma to your best interests. I urge you to remain watchful and steadfast. I don't think at no point in time that nobody, no right thinking person would take that statement very lightly. You can't do that. You can't just go forward and say things like that. You have a nation watching on. These are persons at the helm of the police force, and at no point in time could we just relax and say, well, oh, whatever, people say what they want. It cannot be done like that. Those words are very heavy, they're weighted words. They should not be taken lightly. I think that Calvin Brutus, for all intents and purposes, needs to come out and just basically retract that statement. It should not be out there from someone that took a pledge to be unbiased, the oath of office that they take, without fear or favor, affection or ill will, not those direct words. They take a little bit differently, but you can't go out and say things like that at any point in time and expect that persons are going to just relax and say take it as nothing. The words are very damning. You cannot say unprecedented trauma, persons wanting to inflict unwarranted and unprecedented trauma because they are challenging the legality of a process. All of this being said, to the fact that persons are challenging the legality of a process. This is not so. It cannot be at any point in time done in that manner. And I read one of the first comments I see coming out from an individual responding. They said, put everything aside that was said, all the words that was used, put those things aside. The question still remains, was the promotions done in a way in which was legal? It was legal. That remains the question. And I did note some point in time in the statement also, there was some sort of attempt to say that it was done in a way in which that was legal. And again, I say, you can't just step out of line. You have a responsibility there. The police force, as individuals within the force, you do what you have to do in accordance with your responsibilities, your roles and your responsibilities. And you do not mix matters when it comes to the judiciary and the way in which they deal with their responsibilities. Just leave that separated apart from what you were saying. When it comes to politics, leave it to the politicians. Don't mix matters, because when you do those things, persons look at you very, very differently. And I think that is what is going on right now. Very, very I'm very not surprised, but it's very unfortunate that I had to read that particular statement there, crafted in such a way to try to get away with the wording of it, but everyone could see right through that. And I do think that it needs to be retracted. I think for the benefit, for the benefit of everyone, including Mr. Brutus. Those things should be retracted. You want the public to have confidence in you as a law enforcement officer, and that is definitely not the way to go about it at all. You cannot do that. It looks a whole lot hypocritical that you yourself would have challenged the matter before the court when it comes to the promotional list, and now that it is being challenged, the legality of the process that it went through is being challenged. Then there is this whole long statement as to why it should not be, and all these words being utilized. No one came out and talked and spoke about unprecedented trauma and conniving and self-centered and all of those things when it was being challenged by Mr. Brutus himself. So when you would have gone down that pathway yourself to the court, like how do you now you utilize those wordings to what seems as a little bit of attacking to the persons that are challenging it right now? Very, very, very concerning. I think that that's not the way in which we want to go. Everyone needs to perform their functions, their duties to the best of their abilities without crossing lines, without mixing matters. Let us not go down the road of mixing matters. Again, leave the politics to the politicians. Do your job as you should do. Leave the court to make their decisions. That is not our job. The politicians don't dictate the court. We have so much to learn all together. And I have to say that again, I am tremendously disappointed with that statement coming out of Calvin Curtis. And so soon, so soon.
Yep. Apologies for my departure, folks. Quite a morning at this end. Quite a morning. But Rita, I've been following what you're saying, and I think you're absolutely, absolutely right. And, we tend to be a little more gentle on the morning program. But I want to say here that Calvin Brutus is a hypocrite.
Mm. Oh, so
He's a hypocrite. He's
yeah.
a hypocrite. I heard you say that this is a gentleman, an officer who took a matter to court, right? Incidentally, to do the promotion list. Right? It means then everything he's saying here about those persons who are now challenging this matter could have been said of him. That is the hypocritical nature of the whole thing. And I didn't read the end of the statement, but I heard you read it, Rita.
I can read it back because I think that I can read it back.
Right ahead.
I'm very concerned about it. I'll
be
honest with you.
It's hypocritical.
There's a particular paragraph in the center that I have to go back to. It's two paragraphs, one in the center and the ending, that I'm very, very concerned about.
Very hypocritical.
And the ending, I'm going to read it again. It says, the administration of the force urges all concerned to not be distracted by these mischievous tactics, but rather to focus their attention and energies positively by continuing to perform law enforcement duties with diligence and poise. Further, be mindful of those individuals that are self-centered, conniving, and obviously enthusiastic to inflict unwarranted and unprecedented trauma to your best interest. I urge you to remain watchful and steadfast.
And you think this is a guy who's going to serve and protect for everybody?
For everybody. And that's why I'm saying that
this is editorializing. He has no proof anybody's mischievous and all of that, right? You're editorializing. You move from policing now, and you're editorializing.
But that's why I'm saying that I'm urging that this statement be withdrawn, because when you are in certain positions, I'll put it just as like when you're in certain positions, you are expected, the very least, is to have a perception that is not biased. Person's perception of you should be that you are not operating, functioning, performing your duties in a biased manner. But when you go out there and you make a statement as the one that you're saying here, unprecedented, persons are trying to inflict unprecedented trauma on your best interest. Like what was the best interest of the individuals that was persons, well, not persons, that it could be interpreted that he was trying to inflict, enthusiastic, unwarranted, unprecedented trauma to those folks there when he himself challenged that list. So I find that you don't do those things. You don't want people to have confidence in you and go out and say things like that. When you are serving the level of the police force, you have to serve in a way that everyone have confidence that, this person
Excuse me,
is going to serve in our best interest altogether.
to serve and
Politics and all
protect.
of that aside.
I'm happy you mentioned that because in actuality, and I'm just making sure I have my notes up here correctly put. This matter, the matter of him taking the previous list to court, stating that the list was unconstitutional and all of those things. As we have said here, this matter was before the court, and I'm looking for some specific comments that I had right at my fingertips up to a moment ago, and it seemed to have disappeared from me. Nevertheless, it was almost a scathing criticism, even though I don't want to say that, and attributed to the Chief Justice. That was the kind of tenor we were on in that instance, because the Chief Justice said of Calvin Brutus that his actions were self-serving. So to hear him accuse others of being self-centered is amazing, right? And I wanted to quote the exact section of that judgment, because the Chief Justice, Roxanne George Wiltshire, says it was self-serving. That is what she said, right? She said it was self-serving. That he said that, and he quoted some names of officers who were on the investigation and should not have been promoted, right? The Chief Justice says there was no evidence supplied to support that. And that the letters he had written to disqualify them, again, were self-serving. That is what she said.
Wow.
They were self-serving letters. So to hear him say that, and to kind of this affront,
Self-centered and conniving,
right?
and obviously enthusiastic to inflict unwarranted and unprecedented trauma. I don't know how I'm supposed to interpret that. How else am I supposed to interpret that? How else?
This affront on people who now bringing who are now questioning. I really am trying to get it. Who are questioning this promotion list? It is good when you can do it, but when some other folks do it, they are all of those words you've mentioned, Rita. They are conniving, and they're all of those
But
things.
that's just the last paragraph.
Right? It's
More
sad.
words are being used, throughout every single paragraph, and I think I'm saying that if I was to advise Calvin Brutus on the course part, I would say retract that statement. Retract the statement, it's never too late for you to go down that line.
Retract and come again.
Retract and come again. I think that it should be retracted. I mean, goodness. I want to say, sometimes if he's ever listened to the program, whomever advised him to go out with a statement like this, they were not acting in his best interest. They were not doing that.
Here's what part of the judgment the Chief Justice handed down read. It says that the then acting Deputy Commissioner of Police had written self-serving letters against officers Cooper, Azor, and Simon. And more so, there was a paucity of evidence to prove that they had been the subject of disciplinary proceedings.
That's quoting the Chief Justice.
Right? This quoting the Chief Justice. There was no evidence to counter, right, that of the challenged officers who had filed affidavits that they were unaware of the allegations being made against them. Right? That's what the Chief Justice says. The letters that Calvin Brutus wrote were self-serving. It was only in his interest. Right? Now, the other aspect of this is similar, because here is a man, an officer, who has benefited from the process that you now coming to say is legitimate. Right? And that is how this whole thing is so bizarre, because they could have chose anybody to bring that statement. Any other person with credibility. Right? But you have just benefited from the system. You've been promoted in rank. You're going to receive a higher salary. And you come out saying, the system is a good one, and anybody who against them, they are, all of these things. You read the middle and the last paragraph.
It's just the last one. I didn't even read the middle.
The middle and the last paragraph. But there was another portion that I saw that really raised and the whole thing was so distasteful. Right? And venturing into the realm, not even venturing, right? Running into the realm of politics. In a section, he says, in a democratic society, everyone alleging injustice is afforded equal access to the judicial organ of the state. it appears that a minuscule portion, this is editorializing,
Yeah.
a minuscule portion of the Guyanese society is offended by the historic and unprecedented, uh, gigantuous elevation of dedicated, diligent, and deserving men and women in uniform. This is editorializing. This is not policing, right? This is being political. These aspirations can best be described as dubious, mischievous, disingenuous,
Yeah.
against the background of a comprehensive postulation of a well-balanced compendium of recommendations by Clifton Hickens. Folks, Ghana is not a real place. Right? If this is not politics, I don't know politics. If this is not the thing self, we don't know it. This is politics.
I asked Mr. Brutus to withdraw the statement as an officer of the law. You know,
Right?
I asked Mr. Brutus to withdraw the statement and to show, to at least have the perception out there that you are not biased
Yeah.
in your approach.
You know,
to
this how they say
performing
public
your
school people handle it. You
duties.
just get a little promotion.
Right?
Next day, people are dubious and
And I have to say
Oh
again
my.
to Mr. Brutus, whomever it was that advised you on this statement was not acting in your best interest. That person seemed to be working
Right.
against your best interest to ask you to put out that statement. And I want to add that right now, that it has been some time, this whole matter that is before the court does not just affect, this promotion list,
Yeah.
how it
Yeah.
affects the top cop and that
Yeah.
appointment altogether.
yeah,
Right? And at no point in time, and I want persons to note, especially Mr. Brutus, at no point in time did you once see Mr. Hickens coming out with anything remotely close to that statement.
Mr. Hickens push him out.
Right? There was no point in time that Mr. Hickens said anything remotely close
Yeah.
to that because of the ripple effect altogether. When you are within those posts, you want to command
Yeah.
confidence
Yeah.
of the people.
Yeah, sadly,
on that.
Mr. Brutus has found himself now singing for his supper. Because as you run that, this is a headline in today's paper, right? Calvin Brutus just trying to tell us the police forces, all things bright and beautiful. This was not a poem we learned somewhere in nursery school. All things bright and beautiful, right? That's he wants to portray the Ghana police force. But Starbuck News says this morning, the police story of Quindon Backer's death in tatters.
Wow.
Right?
I think
It
Starbuck-
in tatters.
Well, and then we expect to see Starbuck News coming out tomorrow morning with something in relation to not Starbuck News.
Right.
I am expecting to see all the media houses going out there as it relates to this statement. I'm expecting his phone to be ringing off the hook right about now because the media should be asking questions.
Yeah. What do you mean by this?
What do you mean by
What
this?
do you mean by that?
Yeah.
Right? The police story
It's worrying.
on Brutus
Listen,
in
guys.
tatters.
It's worrying. It's everything that is happening. It's
Very much so.
worrying. It's worrying.
Very much so. Right? So that's what the guy is saying, the story in tatters. And of course, folks, we know by now that the police have charged for murder Mr. Christoph Dinabraga. He is the policeman who they say fired the fatal bullets which ended the life of Quindon Bacchus. Damian McCalman, he's been charged as well for trying to perverse the course of justice. The same police force that suddenly they said, the morale way up, perverting the course of justice. And then we got Mr. Thurston Simon. Well, he had some things to talk about the senior ranks in the Ghana police force,
Wow.
trying to coerce him, right, to lie to investigators about what really happened the afternoon Quindon Bacchus met his gruesome demise there, right? This is the same police force, It's the same police force. And while we're on that, folks, while we are on that, right? I beg your indulgence. While we're on that, good folks, Starbuck News this morning dedicated their entire editorial to this matter of the police force and Quindon Bacchus. And some of what they said, Jarita, is that whoever shot Quindon Bacchus, the story in adding up, you're running behind this man. He is firing at you. You firing at him, right? And you are such a marksman. You could hit him 6 times, right? But you never once aim for your foot. You're such a marksman. You could fire that gun running and hitting the target 6 consecutive times. But your one-time aim for SWAT. In this editorial, the head of which is loss of credibility. It's the police force who's talking about, But Calvin Brutus run out saying, we are the apex of credibility here. Everything got you right. The Police Service Commission, legal. See, I don't come wrong, we funny. Starbuck News says there's loss of credibility. Here what it reads about. It says about Bacchus. Mr. Bacchus' murder, but more so the Ghana Police Force response in the immediate aftermath, left room for careless, unfounded statements. The police force is capable of careless, unfounded statements. Got this Starbuck News. That helped to fuel the unrest that followed. Then, that too was abominably handled.
Very, very
Police
much
response
so. Yep.
to the protest was abominably handled, particularly last Tuesday when they indiscriminately fired on civilians using rubber bullets for no apparent reason. And right now, Calvin Bacchus firing indiscriminately at civilians. You call the words. That is firing on civilians. Indiscriminately. What's the words he used? That is firing indiscriminately. Small, minuscule section, mischievous. That's firing indiscriminately.
How do you go and defend
at
these
civilians?
people?
The editorial reads on. It says, no amount of sports equipment, ouch, community enhancement doled out by the government will help communities view the force in a better light, given these events. Sadly, neither the politicians nor those at the helm of the Ghana Police Force seems to get this. And until they do, the cycle will continue. Right? And Calvin Brutus, somebody push you out with a statement,
I think that's
ridiculing the public that you were sworn to serve and protect, but you're protecting them this morning in those words, those vile, despicable, untenable, unacceptable words.
And because of that, he needs to retract the statement.
And resign.
Retract that statement immediately.
Because clearly he's unfit for assistant commissioner of police.
You don't want persons to, you don't want that. You should not want that. You should not want that level of public distrust after
it is there.
Statement.
It is there. It's right there.
I'm trying to see what was the aim, because when persons want to, when you want to step into the realm of politics, you have to say, what is the aim? It's always when you put out a statement, what is the perception that you're going to be given to society? What is the feedback that you're expecting to have? All of those things needs to be considered, and this is why persons, you got to be very careful with whose advice you're taking and so forth, and you got to be more so wondering why the other individuals are not saying the similar things. Mr. Higgins isn't saying that. Mr. Higgins know that you don't go out and say those things.
Starbuck News was basically saying in this editorial, the police force has been found lying. Here's Starbuck News in a section of the editorial, talking about the Quindon Bacchus issue, right? The second fiasco occurred in the case of Quindon Bacchus, who was shot 6 times during a police operation on June 10th. According to a police press release issued right after the shooting, it was as a result of a sting operation gone awry. The release claimed Mr. Bacchus had run away from an undercover officer and while doing so, discharged his gun in the policeman's direction. It said the policeman gave chase while returning fire using his service revolver, and his bullets hit Mr. Bacchus about his body. The police then picked up the wounded, unconscious Mr. Bacchus and took him to the George Young Public Hospital Corporation, where he succumbed while receiving treatment. All this same police force put out here, right? All of this has been in the public domain since June 11th. However, it bears repeating that what was later revealed in the report from the post-mortem examination, right? According to a second police statement, Dr. Nihal Singh, right, the doctor who performed the post-mortem, he reported that Mr. Bacchus had died as a result of multiple gunshot wounds. Mr. Bacchus' relatives later revealed that he has sustained 6 gunshot wounds, one of which was to his head. Just how many shots did the policeman fire? How was this possible during a pursuit? The Ghana Police Force release would have us imagine that a lone police officer who was running behind a fleeing Mr. Bacchus was a very skilled marksman, because not only could he hit a moving target, but he managed to do so 6 times. Incredulous, Sabbath News says. That is what the police expect everyone to believe, without explaining clearly why this brilliant sharpshooter did not aim for Mr. Bacchus' leg instead. And finally, it says here, the other question that arose included why was there a need to fire 6 or more times? Surely Mr. Bacchus would have been incapacitated after 1 and 2 bullets hit his body. Furthermore, how many rounds does a Ghana Police Force Service revolver hold? Right? That's what it says here. More questions than answers.
More questions than answers.
Right, but they want to talk about this. More questions than answers. That's not what the journalist funny. They don't want lots happening in this regard. And what transpired there overnight with that statement and some comments attributed to Calvin Bacchus that were carried by Big Smith News, that the entire police force knows that the police service commission is legal. It's really gone.
Yeah.
It's really gone.
No, but there are certain lines you do not cross. You don't cross certain lines. You like leave politicians.
You want to be a politician, fire the work and come over.
Then we could rap.
Fire the work.
There are
and come
certain
over.
lines you don't cross. It's not in your best interest. It's not in your well-being. Whomever is advising you is working against you. They're trying to have they have the ulterior motives, because they obviously don't want you looking good in the eyes of the public. As simple as that. And when you get to that point, you realize that you need to change your advisors, right?
Yeah.
And it's never too late for you to attempt to gain back some sort of positivity and light to your image during the it's never too late. Retract that statement.
This is madness.
Retract that statement. It's just retract it. I don't know how else could you go with that. You have to retract the statement. That's the only way I can advise. But then again, it's up to you.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. You thought it was smart to put it out there. So
yeah. So
it is what it is. Folks, that's me time. that's
our time. That's our time.
Things heating up, folks. Things heating up. Right? In Great Britain.
See, the thing is about it, I see the political play. I see the political hands at work. I know the politicians that go in and tell people, yeah, you go out and you do this. We got your back, and and it irks me, because the individuals now that get in the cussing of it, they need to be more tactful.
They need to be smart.
They need to be more tactful in their approach and who they're taking advice from and recommendations from.
But if this is your judgment to do something like this, clearly you don't deserve to be assistant commissioner of police, much more commissioner of police. Clearly, this is your judgment.
Goodness.
We're in a bad spot in this country. Why the PP has to corrupt everything?
Every single thing.
The police force, they come in. And then they go and sing the tentacles
they
in
all
there.
Have,
corrupt.
And that's the whole thing. The individuals within the police force, they all have personal, when it comes to their ambition and all of that. They want to move up in rank and all of that. And they have their way of going about it. But then they're the political people that is going to go in and try to direct and instruct and all of those nonsense.
Murky the waters and muddy, corrupt.
Those things coming out there. Police force, the guys of the police force just stay there, stay there.
Calvin Brutus is going to take responsibility for his actions, his name on it.
That's why I think
it's strange, because the Ghana Police Force has a whole PR department.
They cannot get nobody else to do that. I'm telling you, Mr. Higgins, I do not see Higgins ever coming out with something like that. What has Higgins been doing whilst things are being challenged? While that point, because that is not a Higgins issue. That is not a Higgins. That is a procedural error that was not in line with the law, and he's not coming out there and challenging that. He is there. He is there in communities distributing food and footballs and so forth. Because he understands that you don't do this. And I'm very surprised that someone actually bite the bullet and come out and say something like that.
That's where we are, folks.
My goodness.
That's where we are.
That's all I have to say.
That's where we are.
I'm disappointed very much.
As we program, that's we time, folks. Remember, smash that emoji button, share the live, and partner with us. We're available via Zelle, PayPal, Cash App,
MoneyGram.
MMG, MoneyGram, Western Union, and we need your help. Another month, responsibilities await us as we proceed to the end of the month. Help us. You
Yes.
see the myriad challenges
I
this
think
morning?
Sharon needs some vitamin C.
The
What do you
myriad
need for
challenges.
that? I don't know. Some
I'm
bush
using
tea.
everything known.
Something Sharon needs to
Yeah,
just go. But
yeah,
most important thing you need to just don't be in the cold or whatever.
yeah.
Oh, some Vicks. My mother do
Because we
Vicks.
have the program, so we have to be coughing.
Have a good day,
So she
guys.
wicked.
It's always a pleasure to
She
be
not want
here
to
with
cough, and
you.
she stressing me out.
Let us have a lot of discussions moving forward.
Yeah.
I hope the police
See you guys
force
back
is
at 12.
having a lot of discussions today, guys, and we're gonna see you back later
We're
on in the day.
continuing the discussion at 12.
Yeah, let's get
That's how
that
we stay.
done.
See you guys later.
Bye.
Stay
Let
well.
Sherry come off.
Stay well.